We are live. Nick Kypreos here for the Real Kyper at Noon show, episode 76. And what a day it's going to shape up to be, because we've got a ton to talk about on and off the ice. Just to recap what the next hour or so can look like, our thumbnail today is the North Rivalry. And we have often talked prior to this season how this North Division was going to be so exciting, how every team across the country from coast to coast, all seven, have drastically improved, which means the competition would be fierce throughout the season. Here we are a dozen games in and hasn't quite shaped up that way. And I'm the first to say I really am. But tonight, I can set that aside for the very least reason. We will get the two top teams going at it in the North Division. Thus, our thumbnail, Toronto Maple Leafs, Montreal Canadiens. We had them as the top teams in the division, but we also thought that there'd be a good push throughout the league. We have not seen that. And that's why I'm disappointed. Ottawa, Edmonton, Vancouver. God, we could even start talking about Vancouver maybe being worse than Ottawa right now. We know they got some great talent. We know they finished off well in the bubble, but they're a mess. Calgary, we don't know what the hell they are. And then there's Winnipeg, which should be better, right? A little bit. Now they got Pierre-Luc Dubois and played, a little over a dozen minutes. Not the impact that we would have thought, but this guy's been off for a long time, so we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But tonight, it's all about Toronto and Montreal. So before we get into that, before we bring in our favorite character out of the state of Florida, we'll also get into Patrik Laine, of course, the benching, the comments, and now this story that there was some verbal abuse out of Patrik Laine with a coach on the bench that no one wants to talk about. That'll be an interesting discussion with Doug Maclean. Of course, we got everybody's favorite analyst, Brian Burke, no longer at Sportsnet. He ends up in Pittsburgh with Ron Hextall. We're going to get into that dynamic. One other game on tap as well, the Boston Bruins and the New York Rangers. If we want to talk about great rivalries, we know historically, nothing better than Toronto and Montreal, two of the oldest teams in the NHL. Boston and the Rangers right there. So we'll get into that. And Tony Dangelo, what's going on there? We'll get into the latest on Tony Dangelo, and we'll update you Ranger fans on what we think is going on right now. And you're going to want to stick around for that as well. So a couple games that we can talk about as well. Outside of that, let's bring in our favorite guy, Doug Maclean, out of fresh off an 18 holes. What'd you shoot today, Mac?
Well, I had a 45 in the front nine. I took a 5 and a par 3, Nick, which was frustrating.
Double bogeys will kill you, buddy.
7 on the last hole on number 18, par 5. And I come in with a 91, but I did make $7.
Are we gonna stick to the fact that you're not 100%? The Bursasac, did it come into play?
The back's been bothering me just a touch, but I feel good. I feel really good and invigorated, and I hit the ball well, but
Well, we hope you're invigorated for a couple of these conversations, because this will be an interesting day. Once again, on and off the ice. We can certainly off the ice have a show in itself, but I want to stick to the on ice. And what we believe, at least I believe, for the first time since I was a kid, that I've been this excited about a Toronto-Montreal game. It just seems, Mac, since I can remember, and we know they met in 79 in the playoffs, that disappointed because the Leafs just couldn't match the great Montreal Canadian team back then. But this is for the first time when we believe that they're both at a good level, a competitive level, maybe even a Stanley Cup level if things kind of fall into place. But it's a feeling like we've never had before, where both teams are feeling really good about where they are and the level of compete that we've seen so far. We haven't seen from other teams in the Canadian division. So that in itself, I think, brings back this rivalry to a level that we have not seen.
It really does. I talked to a couple of scouts this morning, and, they're excited. Like, hockey people are excited about this game tonight because obviously the top two teams, but Montreal, Toronto. So there's genuine excitement, obviously in Canada, but even with the hockey people around the league. This is a game that people are very anxious to use as a measuring stick. Where are these two teams in the Canadian division? We know they're both the creme de creme, but against each other, what's it going to be like? I'm excited about watching this game. I really am.
Toronto sits at the top of the North Division, 21 points, 10-2-1. Montreal right behind them, 18 points, 8-2-2. Montreal with the one game in hand. Who's got more to prove tonight?
Well, you know what? It's really interesting. Montreal have more to prove because they've been not very good the last couple of years. We know they had a little run in the playoffs last year, gave them some, generated some excitement. Toronto have been building this team since Shanahan came. Keith takes over from Babcock. I think Montreal have a little more to prove. Are they for real? Yeah, looks like they are. Toronto, are they for real? Can Toronto play playoff hockey? You got to like what they've done this far. So I think both teams have lots to prove tonight. I really do.
Despite the fact that Montreal has not fared well in the last few years, they have the psychological edge, Mac, and certainly the overall record. My last count, 359 wins to the Leafs, I think 301. But I agree with you that it's Montreal has a lot more to gain out of this. And we do feel like the offense, the game breakers, certainly belong to the Toronto Maple Leafs and their $40 million payroll to four guys. And they've come as advertised so far this season, especially Marner and Matthews, who have commanded 10.9 and 11.6 respectively. They've lived up to that money, Mac. They've been that good, and they've really carried the offense. Matthews, 300 career points, goal a game guy right now. He could be the best goal scorer in the league, and he may stay there all season.
But you know what? Talking to a couple of hockey guys this week too, and it's like Matthews, like, he is becoming the complete package. This guy goes in the corner, gets the puck. This guy forward checks. This guy back checks. Marner, we love. I mean, look, their forward group, their big four up front have been very good. Complementary guys have been good. Freddie Anderson's been good. Freddie Anderson's played some very good hockey for them. Campbell's come in. I mean, their defense is better than I thought they would be. Simmons has been a surprise for me. I just think there's a lot of good things going on with the Toronto Maple Leafs right now. I really do. I think.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think they've simplified things, Mac, and maybe that's come out of maturity. Maybe that's come out of some learning lessons for Sheldon Keefe. But you watch them now, and I've been telling people a lot, and maybe this is what analytics want to hear, but they are in many ways a dump and chase team. Look, not that they dump and chase all the time, because we know when they see room, when they see a green light to gain off the rush, they're as good as anybody in the league. But less turnovers, less turning up and trying to regroup, just getting it in deep and going. They've figured it out in a lot of ways here.
Like, this is the perfect coaching situation for Keith. How many times can you fall flat in your face in the playoffs? I know they were against good teams. I get that. I know they were against good teams in the playoffs. But how many times do you fall flat in your face that you don't say, okay, we have got to start now and we've got to change the way we play in the regular season, the way we play 5-on-5, the way our power play is structured now with Manny Malhotra there, getting the puck to the net, having traffic at the net. This is a lot of different looks here. And it looks to be hitting them between the eyes that we've got to wake up and play a different way because it's all about what they do in the playoffs. That's what it's all about now with the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I'm kind of proud of what they've done to sort of say, hey, we've got to do it. Now, is the competition as good this year as it was last year? Hey, their division last year was pretty damn tough. The Canadian division hasn't been very tough, but full marks to the Leafs.
Yeah. But this will give them, I think, the biggest test, no question, Mac, in terms of where the Leafs really are or where they really think that they are. Because Montreal does play that playoff type of physicality. And this is where I think we give Montreal a little bit of an edge here. I remember the opening game and watching, Josh Anderson take some healthy runs at the likes of Brody and a few others. And I'm sure that's the game plan right away. And that's still an element, especially with Wayne Simmons out, that the Leafs are still questionable. But it will be Montreal trying to come out, I think, and play a physical aspect and get in their face that we didn't see from Vancouver in the last 3 games, or to a lesser extent, even Calgary. And that included having Matthew Tkachuk in the lineup.
Yeah, this is a big test. Montreal, we've talked about Montreal for a couple of years. When are they going to get bigger on the wings? When are they going to add some depth to their back end? And all of a sudden, we look at these two teams. Toronto's playing the right way right now. That's gotten through to them. Bergevin has brought in some size and skill on the wings. He's got the emergence of a couple of young centermen in Kokoniemi and Suzuki, and Danault has developed into a real solid two-way guy. Drouin looks better because Anderson's on his other wing. I mean, I really like, I think Toronto is better up front right now, skill-wise. I think they still have a slight edge up front with their big boys. But I like the depth of Montreal's forward group. And full marks to Julian, who we know is a good coach, for the way they played. Full marks to the general manager for the job he's done. There's some bouquets to go around to both organizations here. And we haven't even started to talk defense yet and goaltending.
Yeah. Nick Kypreos here with Doug Maclean. This is live, episode 76, Real Kyper at Noon show. We asked you on Monday to hit 100 likes. We came close, but I know today we're going to do it. So I'm on you right now. Mac wants to hit 100 likes during this show. So I remind you now, and I'll catch up with you guys maybe in another 10 or 15 minutes. But so much to dissect, Mac. You just mentioned it. Let's go to the defense right now because, between Ben Sherratt coming in and adding some good depth and having some good chemistry, some great chemistry with Shea Weber. And then, Edmondson comes in, all 6'4" of him, and provides steady minutes, size. And then there's Jeff Petrie, Mac, who has turned himself into a John Carlson type of player in Washington. If we started talking about best defenseman in the league out of the gate, he's at the top of the list.
We liked him in Detroit. We thought he was a little bit soft. We didn't know what he was really going to become. Talk about a guy that's matured as he's growing in the NHL. And all of a sudden, he's a premier guy with them right now. He's really good on the power play. He's really good 5-on-5. I mean, this guy brings the total package now for them. Edmonston, to me, was a big pickup because he brings that grit and toughness. We know what Shea Weber is. But Romanoff, we talked a lot about in the preseason what he's brought to the table. I told you what a scout told me, that he reminds him of a young Ray Bourque. Look, I like a lot of things about this back end. And I'm listen, I really like the way Toronto's back end has played. Hall has been good. Muzzin's been solid. Morgan Riley's been a horse.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some really good things to say. I got to give Montreal an edge on the back end going into this game tonight. Forwards, I'm giving Toronto a slight edge, but I'm looking at this blue line for both teams, and I'm giving Montreal Canadiens a bit of an edge on the back end with the way they've played thus far. They're physical. They stick up for one another. They move the puck effectively. Even their big horse, even the big guys that you're like say, well, he's a horse, he's physical, he's a banger. The bangers are even moving the puck up ice to the forward. So I really like, the way this Montreal blue line has performed.
We give, no question, the game breakers go to the Toronto Maple Leafs, led by their $40 million foursome. Defense, I'm with you. We'll give the edge to the Montreal Canadiens, and full marks for, I think, a Leaf blue line that's playing within themselves. It doesn't appear like anybody's trying to do too much.
Real good.
So we'll give Montreal the edge. And then there's goaltending. Freddie Anderson was pretty good against Vancouver in closing out that mini series, and he looks primed to at least start this back-to-back with Montreal as a reliable source. Where it kind of gets interesting for me, Mac, is that I look at Montreal's overall game, and we would have thought maybe 4 months ago for the Montreal Canadiens to be 8-2-2, Carey Price would be having to be typical Carey Price and carry this club. But that has not been the case. And if you look at maybe a little bit of a lull in their season so far, it's come off the last two games against Ottawa, where Jake Allen won and Carey Price lost. Now, I'm not here to suggest that, it's
don't.
Okay. I won't. Okay. Let me phrase it another way. Okay. Does Jake Allen get one of two starts against the Toronto Maple Leafs here?
Well, look, he deserves it because he's been very good for them, and they're trying to build this because they need a fresh Carey Price for the playoffs. It's always been an excuse that he's got wore out. So, but I'm going to tell you right now, Carey Price is all world. We know that. So you've got to, and Allen has come in and been good. So you've got to give the edge in goal to Montreal. But I'm going to tell you something. Going into tonight's game, you can't say that Montreal's goaltending has been any better than the Toronto Maple Leafs. And that's saying a lot. I'm saying right now, Freddie Anderson has been as good as the Montreal goaltending. That's saying a lot. You would have a hard time with that one.
Yeah, no question that Allen's come as advertised. And as I would assume, though, Mac, if Carey finds a way to look average in this game, I would think that they could go to Jake Allen Saturday night. Yeah. I really do. And
you know what? What a luxury. What a luxury. They haven't had that for how long?
Which wouldn't, I think, sit well with Carey Price because, these are measuring stick games for Montreal. You're playing the top team in your division. We don't see them falling off this mountain anytime soon in the North Division. So I would suggest that Carey would bring his A game tonight and kind of lock up a win. And possibly if Allen sees action on a Saturday night, it will be with the blessing of Carey Price.
If Carey Price wins the game tonight, I'm sorry. I'm not going to him and saying, Carey, you got Saturday off. If Carey Price wins tonight,
Yeah.
Carey Price is getting the start for me on Saturday night.
All right. All right. Well, listen.
What's the prediction, guys? We can't leave everybody hanging.
I've got a Leaf win tonight. I think the offense is going too strong right now, and I'll also give the edge on the specialty teams, Mac, to the Toronto Maple Leafs. So I'll give Toronto a win. I'll give them a 4-2 win, empty netter.
Okay. I want to see Toronto's power play against Montreal's penalty killing and Carey Price. That's what I want to see.
Well,
we know this power play has been spectacular in Toronto. Spectacular. I want to see a playoff style penalty killing power play matchup tonight. And how does this power play match up when it's this type of penalty killing? I'm anxious to see that, including Carey Price.
Which is a below average penalty kill out of both Toronto and Montreal. I think they're respectively
it is, but
bottom third.
But in a game like this, I would expect Montreal's penalty killing to step up. I've got to be prepared. I've got to believe that the big part of this preparation going into tonight's game is our penalty killing. We can't take bad penalties, number one. We can't give them the power play. But if we do, we got to challenge this power play. So I'm going to give Montreal the win tonight in a hard-fought game. I'm giving Montreal the win, and that's
going low scoring.
With all due respect to the Leafs with the way they play, but I'm going with Montreal tonight.
A low scoring game.
That Montreal crowd is always worth a goal at least.
The video or the video cheering. The
Montreal video board has been worth a goal a game this year.
Give me a score.
4-3.
4-3.
Yep.
All right.
I mean, you have to take Toronto because you played 52 games for them and you're an alumni. You got to go with them.
They were very good 54 games, and you
know what? It was 54 more than I played. So
we know your hearts to the junior Canadians, right? How many games there?
A year and a half.
A year and a half, and a shit kicking from Wensick.
Yeah, that son of a and then when I became assistant coach in St. Louis, I go to an alumni event, and who the hell do I run into at the alumni event is John Wensick at the reception.
Did he even remember knocking your block off?
My nose was on the side of my cheek, okay? And he doesn't even vaguely remember who I was because he beat up so many people. And I'll tell you how bad the coach in Montreal must have hated me. We go into Cornwall to play them again against Cornwall Royals, and Wensick starts in Cornwall because they're going moose. And the coach puts me out opposite him. That was 6 weeks after I come back. I was out for 6 weeks with this decapitated nose, and I go against Wensick, and I'm standing there saying, holy shit, is he going to beat me up again? He didn't even look at me. He didn't know who I was. I was so damn excited. He never touched me. He never touched me. Anyway, it was good.
See how nervous you get even telling that story because you start clicking your pen like it's going out of style.
Well, and I've told this story so many times. I had a first date at the game. I had a Triumph Spitfire, yellow Triumph Spitfire. I had this girl as a first date, and I came out of the dressing room and I said, can you drive me up to the hospital and drop me off? And she drove up, dropped me off at the hospital. I was there for a few days.
Yes.
And I come back home and my car was in the driveway and I never saw her again.
No. When she dropped you off at the hospital, she went and found the first star of the game.
She went and found Ian Turnbull, I think.
Ian was a star. She knew Ian one day would score 5 goals in a game. That's what she knew.
It was either Ian Turnbull or Andre Saint Laurent. I don't know which one or it might have been Mario Tremblay. They were all there.
Oh, God. Anybody but you.
Exactly.
Okay, one more rivalry game tonight, and it's the Boston Bruins and the New York Rangers. If we put Toronto and Montreal up as the best one in Canada. This still has magic towards it. The one interesting part, though, is that the Bruins, Mac, 8-1-2, and the Rangers seem to be kind of climbing themselves out of that early funk at 4-5-2. Your Bruins are okay, Mac.
My Bruins are hard to play against. I've watched them a lot. They're very hard to play against. The New York Rangers, like Zibanejad, where is he? Even Panarin and Strome are not getting it done yet. Lafreniere, I mean, they're nervous with Lafreniere. I mean, he's a kid. I mean, let's not get nervous about Lafreniere, but Lafreniere scores his first goal, drops off a touch. They're goaltending. They just don't look as sharp. But the Bruins are hard to play against. From line 1 to line 4, Bergeron, Marchand, and Pasternak, I'm sorry, even Krejci. I mean, I got to give them McAvoy. I got to give them full marks. These guys are so damn good and so much fun to watch. There's no quit, major comebacks. The Rangers better play different tonight. They better play different tonight.
At the top, I talked about some of the more interesting topics. Mac, I want to talk to you a little bit about Tony Dangelo. We know what happened weeks ago about the Rangers moving on from him. A lot of people doubted whether or not they could trade him or not. Early, Mac, we knew of multiple teams that had interest in Tony Dangelo. And I had heard that many of them were ready to pull the trigger. And then what had happened was, I think a few people had stepped in at various ownership levels and squashed it for no other reason that they were worried about the backlash, which in today's world could all be, justified in so many ways. But now you're starting to wonder, okay, where does this kind of end up for Tony Dangelo? And there's no question, Mac, that, he made his bed, with his views politically, the Trump stuff, very polarizing when it comes to, people's beliefs and all of that. And now you wonder in terms of how far does it go to keep a guy from employment and whether or not it's enough. But, this is the danger too, Mac, of social media and bloggers and internet and what you can say and what you can't say. And some people believe that he's a flat out racist. And, again, everybody's allowed their opinion, but when it becomes an opinion that's so strong and it actually keeps a guy from having a livelihood, then you got to make sure that your facts are correct. And I'm watching this from afar, Mac, and I'm just not sure if there's enough evidence out there to definitively say what a lot of people are accusing him of doing. Now, we do know that if you go back to his junior days, there were some issues, inappropriate comments. From my knowledge, Mac, there wasn't anything of public knowledge that could definitively say what he said. So outside of that, I'm wondering, Mac, why this guy is now completely shunned from the National Hockey League when all you have is a bunch of people saying things that might not be factually correct in terms of hard evidence.
It is really, really a tough one because the climate out there is so tough, and owners are nervous about it. I mean, we've seen time and time again where, saying the right thing, doing the right thing, behaving the right way in this day and age is so important. I mean, look, do I like to see a guy blackballed if in fact that's what it is? No, I really don't. I mean, there used to be a time that you you would be challenged as a management team to give guys another chance, and with the idea that we are going to work really hard with this guy, and you better, Tony, work really hard with us to make this work, to dig out of this mess you're in. And you used to do that, and you'd give some guys opportunities at another chance. I don't know how many chances he's had. I really don't know what's out there about it, but it's different today. You can't go there where he went and expect to be unscathed by it.
But again, is it enough, Mac, to share your political views, even if you love Trump? Is that enough for teams to say, you can't play in our league anymore? Like, this is where it's heading, Mac. I'm telling you where it's heading. He's going to get lawyers are going to get involved if, in fact, they're not already involved. Okay.
Listen, look, one of the greatest players in the history of the game, Bobby Orr, come out in support of Donald Trump. They went after him. It was vicious. They went after him. Everybody. Jack Nicklaus come out.
It's fine. And Bobby Orr is an adult.
I know. Okay.
He's an adult. He can say whatever he wants, and he can share his opinion. But
right.
And maybe whoever he was associated with can have the right to, sever partnerships or, whatever they want to do with Bobby Orr. Right. But, this is a young kid that doesn't have Bobby Orr's money, that,
it's his livelihood.
It's his livelihood. It's his future. And is it right when there isn't anything definitively that you could put your finger on to say, this guy doesn't deserve to be in the league? That's a really hard question to answer.
He at least deserves the opportunity to meet with some teams, and then it's up to the GM and the president to discuss this with your ownership group. This is a guy that can help us. I believe we can help him. Now, you know what? Lots of guys don't like to put their balls on the line like that. Lots of management people don't like to take that chance with this situation. They really don't. But that's what's different from a few years ago.
It's pretty clear that teams won't touch him because they believe he's a racist.
Well,
that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah,
that's it in a nutshell. Okay,
I don't know that, but that is
okay. But this
you
is
do
also
not want to be known as that. I'll tell you that. Oh my God, it might be the worst thing.
This is where, and I think I know the New York Ranger organization pretty well here. If that was the case and there was hard evidence, Mac, they would have just null and void his contract like that. Right?
Yeah.
It would have been, but that's not the case here. You don't hear, and now that he's gone, this is usually when all those stories start surfacing and people start talking, and then, media get storylines, and like, just there's nothing happening here. All you hear is the Rangers and many of his teammates still saying, you know what? Yeah, he's got his political views, but he's actually a good guy. He's a fun guy. And that's all we've heard, is that he's a good guy. And then for the first week, we heard he could get traded and teams are interested. Now there's nothing, zero. The Rangers will give him away. They actually are trying to help him get his career back on track. The only thing the Rangers are saying is, hey, listen, it's not working out anymore. We just want to move on. But they're not coming out and like pushing him to the curb completely. They're actually trying to get his career going again.
So what you've got to do if you're a general manager of a hockey team is you make the call to John Davidson, who, in my opinion, is as upfront a guy as there is in the business. Straight shooter, He cares about his players. He cares about players in the league. You make the call to John Davidson. You say, I want the goods. I want to know everything. I want to know what's going on. The next step is, if you believe that you can work with this guy, your next step is you go to your owner and say, this is the situation. This is everything about this guy. This is the upside. This is the downside. And you and your owner make a decision as to whether you're going to give this guy a chance. If your owner says no, the president is done, or the GM is done. You can't go past that. That's where But this is a situation where you've got to get that approval, and you've got to give your owner the exact goods of what's gone on, and where this guy, what you can do to help him. Yeah. Well, that's what you have to do.
Like I said, if there was something definitive in what he did or said, it just hasn't surfaced yet, and I don't think it will. Does he suck a lot of oxygen out of a room? Yes. And that's where maybe the Rangers are got a little tired of it. But we've also I've played with, and you've coached, and you've managed a lot of those guys, Mac, that draw a lot of attention for various reasons, including bar fights for many of your Columbus Blue Jackets.
Hey.
But that still doesn't keep a team from saying, hey, listen, he scored 50-plus points last year. He can move the puck. He can play a power play. He can get up and down the ice. I mean, it's ridiculous that a guy like this.
I've had lots of tough guys to handle. I've had lots of guys that have sucked oxygen out of a room. But I always believed in working with them and trying to be man to man, that this is not going to work. You have got to change. And if you don't, you have no opportunity here. But now people are nervous to give those because of the backlash of your fans and the backlash of the community and the backlash of the media. It's a challenging time. It really is, for players and for management and for owners.
And if you're gonna really come after Dangelo and whatever's gone on in his past, all I can say is you better have your facts straight. You better know exactly what you're accusing him of.
Yeah, big time.
Because I'm telling you, once the lawyers get involved, it could get real ugly for people.
You know what?
Get real ugly.
I've said this many times. I was 22 years in the league. I don't know if I ever had a player in my career that I didn't like as a person. I'm serious. I had lots I didn't like the way they played, but I didn't have any that I didn't like as a person. And there's not one guy that I was involved with in 20-some years in the league that I would be afraid to sit down across the table and have a beer with them, because that's just how you operate.
See, that disappoints me, because I thought when we sat down and had a beer, I was special. Now you're just telling me I'm one of every player that you ever coached.
Now, I sat down with Rod Langway and had a dozen beer. With you, I only had one. I'll never forget Rod, after practice, Rod gave me a drive over to his bar. Remember Langway's?
Yeah.
He was driving a Porsche at the time, and I looked in the back seat, and he had a 12-pack on ice in the back thing. I said, Rod, I'm a coach. I'm a coach. I mean, you can't, really.
And that was an off day in between playoff games. Okay, let's move on. It's a difficult conversation to have, Mac, in today's world, isn't it? The one that we just had, but some things just still need to be said, and some things need to be kind of clarified. And my whole stance on all of this, whether you're a blogger or social media, you just know definitively what we're talking about here before we accuse anybody of anything. That's all. That's all I wanted to get out of this conversation.
Hey, Kip, just
Okay.
real quick, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
What's the recourse for Dangelo? Does he have any if he feels like he's being like wronged legally? Is it arbitration? How does that necessarily work?
I would think that it would be something between Dangelo, his lawyers, and it's like anything else. Once you feel like you've been wronged in various ways, you just find different avenues to go about getting your message across, and that can come from someone that's accused him of something on the internet now, right? A blogger, anybody in particular. It could be an issue with the league. It could be the issue with who knows, the Rangers even. I don't think he'd go after the Rangers, but who knows what kind of advice a lawyer would give him at this point to try to get back his livelihood. So I think the Rangers have been very supportive in all of this, and it's clear that they're still trying to find someone that will trade for him or take him or pick up his contract, or would the Rangers even pick up parts of that contract? We don't know, but my guess is that his issues would be with some of the accusers that have kind of set the tone for all of this, to go maybe an owner to say, I'm not dealing with the backlash.
It works for me. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, Mac. On maybe a more cheerful note, a friend of ours, someone that we've known in the business a long time, Brian Burke, ends up in Pittsburgh. And I have to go back to that old movie quote that says, if I woke up with my head sewn to the carpet, I wouldn't have been more surprised than I am right now. You know where that quote came from?
No.
That's Chevy Chase.
Oh, okay.
Now,
like it.
Do you feel the same way?
Brian Burke and I, over the years, most recently, have had a lot of beer sitting at the Ritz-Carlton in Toronto after shows. And Brian is like a lot of us. He didn't want to go back to the NHL. He did not want to go back to the NHL. He wanted to stay in media. And he's like all of us. He didn't want to go back to the NHL until somebody offered him a job.
So
that's all I can say.
So we know you're using the Real Kyper at Noon show to get your next job. That's what we know about you.
Yeah, right.
Mac.
So, but isn't that the truth? Look, I'm so content in the media. Berkey loved it. He just, it was just the perfect storm for him. He had a long career and he was just totally content.
He'd be
till he got an offer.
He'd be a fool. He'd be a fool to turn that down.
Totally. I sent him a note yesterday. I said, wow, if this is true, congratulations. So, you know what? I'm happy for him. Look, that's what he wants to do. There's no denying that. It's an interesting combination. I'm a Hextall fan. I'm a Chris McFarland fan. It came down to those two, was my understanding. It's going to be an interesting dynamic. It's a tough job.
I had a chance to do a hit with Tim and Sid last night.
I saw it.
And Brian wanted to stick around for it, so we had some fun, and it was fun. It was enjoyable. You could hear how excited Brian was. I said to him on the air, I was your first ever NHL trade, but I know I will not be your last. So, Mac, when we talk about the challenges here for Ron Hextall and Brian Burke coming into this, I just wonder, first and foremost, how is that dynamic going to work here? Because Brian is a guy who likes his hands on the steering wheel. We've known that. He's said it countless of times. We know Ron's hands are on the steering wheel. So how's it going to work?
It's going to be one of Brian Burke's biggest challenges of his career. And he's had some big challenges. But this is a big one because he had Brad Treliving in Calgary, who he was involved with the hiring of Brad Treliving. I'm not sure how it really worked out at the end of the day there. I'm not sure. I've heard some ins and outs on how it worked, but this is different. He's working with an experienced general manager in Ron Hextall who wants to run his own team. But Pittsburgh ownership have structured it that maybe Hexie didn't want to report to the ownership. Maybe Hexie is very happy to report to an in-between and let Berkey report to ownership, who he's had lots of experience with. If I'm Ron Hextall, to me, it's a good situation because you can totally focus on the hockey team without dealing with the ownership, which is a big part of every GM's job right now. Let me tell you, it's a big part of your job is dealing with your ownership. So to me, it could be a good thing for Ron. He's got his hand on the steering wheel with the team. He should be allowed to be the GM. I think Berkey will let him be the GM. I think Brian Burke is smart enough to let him be the GM and be a sounding board, be a guy to bounce things off of. Because if Berkey tells him what to do with running the hockey team, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. So be a sounding board, be a mentor to a degree, but know your role.
Face value. I think it sounds good what you're saying, and it makes a ton of sense. But I got to go back, Mac, to that whole scenario with Ron Hextall in Philadelphia. Okay? And it just seemed, as a guy that came through the organization and, second generation guy outside of the Broad Street Bullies. So that means, they went through their cycle there with those guys, whether it was Bobby Clark, Paul Holmgren, Bill Barber. Okay, Ron was the next wave. And as far as I'm concerned, Mac, that was a disaster. And it should have played out more so like the one that you just described now. But it just seemed like whether or not Paul Holmgren and Bobby Clark felt like they weren't included enough or kept in the loop enough. But Ron came across in Philadelphia as being this pretty stubborn guy, okay, that just felt like they needed to go a certain way. And he was the guy, he was making the decision. And there seemed to be a frustration amongst Holmgren and Bob Clark where, we got to maybe speed things up a little bit, and we got to go to our younger players, whether that was Carter Hart or somebody else, and getting to the point where, whether it was Paul Holmgren or anyone else in that organization said, listen, Ron, we better get on the same page here, or else, you're out of here. And that's essentially what happened, Mac, is that it just, for every reason that you thought it should have worked out in Philadelphia, it didn't. But there was a stubbornness to Ron in Philadelphia that kind of worries me a little bit in Pittsburgh.
Well, look, he spent a lot of time in LA with Dean Lombardi, and Dean runs a pretty tight ship.
And at times, a very tough guy. Dean Lombardi, very tough.
Totally. Very
tough on people around him.
And in-house, nothing gets out. This is our group here. Nothing gets out of this group. Ron comes in there. Here's what I would say to that Ron Hextall should have learned from what happened in Philly and why he got fired. This was a devastating scenario for Ron Hextall to lose that job. Ron Hextall was nervous he was never going to get another job. Was he blackballed? Was he, it's hard to get, there are not many jobs. this has got to be a learning experience for Ron Hextall. Ron Hextall now he had Paul Holmgren, who they were tight. I thought it would be a match made in heaven with Holmgren and Clarkey and Hextall. I really did. Now he's got another opportunity to make it work with Brian Burke.
Yeah.
Won't be easy with Burkey.
Yeah.
He's like a bull in a china shop, you know. But you know what? You can work with Burkey. I mean, I just worked with him on TV, and I enjoyed working with him.
Well,
I had to help him
a lot.
I had to help him and make him look good. I had to work at making him look good. It wasn't easy.
Well,
like his wife said to him. His wife said to him, "You know, Burkey, I got to tell you something. You're good on TV, but you're better when you're with Doug Maclean."
Yes, for sure.
I'm kidding.
But
anyway, look,
it was bizarre.
A learning experience. Also for Burkey. Burkey's scenario in Calgary didn't work perfect either. Let's not kid ourselves. This is a situation where both of them have hopefully learned from what happened in Calgary with Burkey and what happened with Hexie in Philly. And to me, it should have a good chance of doing well. But
just
there's a lot of work to do with this hockey team.
That whole press release in Philadelphia about Holmgren and maybe others, and Ron having philosophical differences, right? After all those years of being together in that organization, just seemed really strange.
You know, let me just say one thing.
Yeah.
People have no idea when you're a general manager of a hockey team, the pressure that is on that individual from ownership, from fan. So it is a tough job. And I really believe guys have learned. Like, watch Jimmy Rutherford goes from Carolina to Pittsburgh. Unbelievable success. Guys that, move from one to another in another. I think both of them hopefully have learned, and I think they have a chance to be a good team in a very tough situation, a very tough job.
You know what's amazing now is watching, like, even, Brian Burke get a job. I mean, mid-60s guy. We watched our Super Bowl champions in Tampa Bay have a 68-year-old coach. Mac, you still got a chance.
But you know what? It happened to me. You hired me. I mean, it happens to me. It happens to Burkey. It happens to Jimmy Rutherford. So good on him,
One of the things that I said to Brian on the Tim and Sid show last night was, you guys want to come across that you can still win now. You're on the clock, man. And the easy part might have been just getting the job. The hard part now is, what the hell do you do with it? And Brian admitted they're not a contending team. And I'm like, hold on for a second. You got to win in the next 2 years with Malkin and Letang's contracts. And then Sid's got another 4 years to go. So, like, you can't go in there, Mac. And yes, you're going to want to see for yourself. But how much of a time frame do they have to go in and watch and see what's wrong with it? 5 games, 2 weeks, 30 days at the most.
That clip of you with Tim and Sid, that was tougher than Burkey's interview with the Penguins. So, you know what? It's tough. I mean, as Burkey said, his first 3 calls were going to be, I'm going to call Sid, and I'm going to call Sid, and I'm going to call Sid. I wonder how those calls went. We'll find out how they went.
Well,
it's you've got, how do you sit with Sid Crosby and say, we're not going to try to win? How does Hexie sit with Malkin and say, we're going to go you've got to go for it. You've got to go for it.
What does that mean as a general manager and a president of hockey ops from here on in? So we're going to see a trade, a major trade, lots of trades. It's too hard right now, Mac.
It is near impossible.
So what is left for them to come in and do what? Just squeeze them harder?
What has got to happen is they've got to set the tone inside the organization that, okay, we like our group. I mean, and look, I looked at their group last night. I mean, their forward group with Gensel and Kapanen and a few of these guys. I like their forward group.
Not an issue.
Okay. Their back end and their goaltending.
Below average.
Dumoulin is out. They got to get Dumoulin back in. Matheson, what the hell that was all about, I have no idea. Hornquist leaves, not good. But I like their forward group. They need to get Dumoulin back and add another defenseman, and they've got to make a decision.
I'm telling you,
Jari going to be good enough.
I'm telling you what this is set up for, okay? And you heard this here first, okay? They will go out there and knock on Vegas's door for Marc-Andre Fleury.
I think that is a possibility without a doubt. And you know what? I would tell them, they're not going to ask me, but I would tell them that's a smart move. That's a smart move. And maybe Ottawa should have did that instead of giving Murray the 5 or 6 years, although he's played well the last couple of games. That might have been a nice fit for Fleury for a couple of years. But anyway.
I think, Mac, that it could be great. It could be a disaster. Okay.
Well, it could be great if he plays and he's excited and he really wants to play. It could be. But you know what? Here's what will happen. We're going to go for it, boys. And then they're going to sit down in May and they're going to sit and say, okay, now we know where we really are. Is Burke going to say the same thing he said on Sportsnet, that this team is past its peak?
I remember when we won the Cup with the New York Rangers in 1994, and now you're into 96, 97, 98, okay? Yep. And you had still Mark Messier, Adam Graves, Brian Leetch, and Mike Richter. And they tried hard, like Pittsburgh apparently is going to try hard for Malkin, Crosby, and Letang to still build around them. So what did the Rangers do? Well, they started trading for Jari Kurri. They traded for Marty McSorley. They went out and eventually got Wayne. And all it did, Mac, was just compound the situation that it was just over.
You're 100% right. So when will they realize that it's over? If they say, like right now, Nick, it's them and the Islanders going to fight for the last playoff spot. That's what it is. Them and the Islanders are going to duke it out for number 4. And then you're going to play the best team in the first round. And look, I hope, I love Sid Crosby. I had a rookie card of his. It seems to be in transition right now, but I love Sid. I love what he's all about, what he's been. Man, oh man. And Letang, he's meant for that franchise.
Yeah, but he's struggling, Mac.
Oh man,
Letang is struggling. He can't keep the puck out of his own net, Mac. And it is a huge issue right now. It's driving Sullivan crazy. So they're going to have to deal with that. They're going to have to deal with that whole dynamic here. And, much like Messier and Richter and Brian Leetch, that room is controlled by Crosby, Malkin, and Letang. That's their room, and they've got a huge impact on it, and it's not working right now. And Brian's going to have to go in there and talk to all three of them, along with Ron, and they're going to have to come up with something that appeases everybody here.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So,
look, you look at the best teams in the NHL today. Whether it's the Toronto Maple Leafs, which are one of the best teams in the league today, the Montreal Canadiens, they did it a little differently. Vegas did it a little differently. St. Louis, Colorado, what did they do? Rebuilding.
Hold on,
rebuilding's tough, man.
Time out. 99 likes, Mac, for you today. 99. I think we're close to 250 viewers out there.
Yeah, we're
Come on,
away, baby. We need to
push us.
You want
push
that
us
Q&A.
over the edge.
If you
Give
want
Mac the likes.
I
Give it to
can't.
us.
I
Right
already
now.
voted.
Give it
I
to us,
already
baby.
voted.
Come on.
One of them are mine.
So a lot of people in chat putting their questions in just in case we hit that 100 mark. But also wanting to know, maybe we'll start off these questions with the Patrick Laine situation and the benching. And
I was
stuff
gonna.
like
I was,
that.
we need to squeeze that in.
How did we not get there?
So we're talking so much meaningful stuff today, boys.
We're just absolutely bombarded with.
Oh, baby, 106.
Good conversation.
106.
108.
Let's go
106.
to the moon.
106.
Rocket
All
ship.
right. That's awesome. Way to go, Real Kyper at Noon followers out there.
Do I
really
get a raise?
appreciate it.
Do I get a raise?
Not yet. Not yet. So, Mac, does Brian Burke, Ron Hextall, and Coach Sullivan need to find a Patrick Laine example out there? What the hell was that? Benching a guy who's brand new to your team and you're hoping that will be the face of the franchise for the next 10 years. Start explaining, please.
Look, you have lots of situations where there's confrontations on the bench, whether it's Mike Keenan and his players, whether it's Ken Hitchcock and his players. It happens all the time. And if Laine said something, I get it. But here's what Brian Murray said to me one time, and I thought it was really great advice. Steve Yzerman was struggling with us in Detroit. And we're sitting there saying, what do we do with Steve Yzerman? And, well, we're not going to bench him. We're not going to sit him out. If Steve Yzerman missed one power play, that was like scratching another player. If the power play come up and you didn't put him out there, oh, my God. That's like getting scratched for these guys. Why would you sit? He come off a 2-goal game, and I know you can't get into it with the power play coach. I get all that, but come on. Come on. You don't embarrass a kid for a period and a half and cause more drama around your team. You got enough drama around the Columbus Blue Jackets right now. The last thing you need is more drama. You need to get rid of that. And this created more. It was wrong, in my opinion.
Any coach has the right to bench anybody,
totally,
anytime. That is not the issue here. That's fine. But now I'm starting to hear stories and reading. I think the Athletic headline is Patrick Laine benched after he verbally disrespected Blue Jackets coach, a source. And I'm going,
oh, really?
A Tortorella team, a player verbally disrespected. I'm like, oh my God, the irony here.
It's got to be a little bit of a two-way street here.
Am I on candid camera here?
Like, if you're gonna rip your guys up one side and down the other, if your assistant coach is gonna say something, it's a two-way street. Come on, we've been on benches our whole lives. We know what happens on benches. Come on, I didn't like it a little bit, and look, John Tortorella's done a good job there. Good job. But
and then there's other jobs, Matt, where he's really
we don't need.
He hasn't done a good job. Okay?
Well,
there are times, and I want to like him, and I do like him for so many reasons, but there's a part of me that says, John, it doesn't have to be about you all the time. And this is one of those instances where I'm like, this guy he's barely been on the team. He's supposed to be your future face of the franchise. Why are you making it such a spectacle now in a negative context here? I don't understand. Like Mac, we just had this conversation of being, be careful how you label and be careful, the consequences of saying stuff on social media and I read now that Patrick Laine verbally abuses coaches. Is that what you want out there for a guy that you're trying to sign or keep for the next 10 years, that he's the type of player that verbally abuses a week into being a member of the team? That's out there. Like, you don't shake those labels very fast, Mac, when you're a guy that verbally abuses coaches. That just doesn't go away.
No, and the last place it should be coming from is the organization. But here's the other thing. There's got to be a trust between the coach and the general manager, that the coach doesn't embarrass your general manager. And I'm telling you, when you make a trade the size of the Line A deal, and look, give Kekalainen some big time credit here. This guy had to make a big trade because Dubois wanted out, and he had to, and he knew it wasn't going to work between Dubois and Tortorella. He makes a big trade. He salvages the situation. He's got drama all around his team. Nobody wants to play in Columbus. Nobody wants to do this. They bring in Line A, and then they have this happen, game 4. Are you kidding me? This is the last thing. I said, you can't have Columbus is a great city, and it's a good team, and they've got good leadership in that room. They do. This is not what they need.
No,
and
no. And I'm telling you,
big time.
It's just for show. That's the part that bothers me. And if they really wanted to keep it internal, they could have masked a couple of more shifts around him. They could have pulled him back.
Totally.
They could have made him. They could have scratched him the next game. They could have done, and they could have just said, maintenance. They could have just said nothing at all. Coach's decision. But to bring out now that he verbally abused somebody on your bench, again, is not a good look. It's not a good look for your organization. It's not a good look for Patrick Laine, right?
Yeah, and you know what, Nick? Why not?
There's no winners in all of this scenario.
No, there isn't. With 6 minutes left in the game, why not just leave him on the bench the rest of the period? Don't put him out for the next couple power plays. You don't think that's a message to a kid that wants his cookies, that wants to be on the power play where he scores a ton of goals? It didn't have to go to 6 minutes in the last 6 minutes and the entire third period. I'm sorry. It just makes no sense to me. And again, it's more drama around a team that doesn't need it.
Interesting times. And now if we were to sit there and say, okay, who's going to win this battle between Laine and Tortorella? Can you believe that we're having this conversation?
No, I cannot believe that we're having this conversation with a guy had scored 3 goals in his last 2 games going into this game. I can't believe it. I mean, those were 2 of the most beautiful power play goals that a guy can score in that position. One time, it looked like magic between Seth Jones and him.
Yeah.
Everything was going. Roslovic's having a good game. Werenski's not playing when he comes back. That power play could be unbelievable. And then you have this shitstorm. Oh, come on.
I'm exhausted. This was an exhausting show. We just came out of the gate.
Seriously.
And we have not stopped.
Because I think that's a good way to kick off our Q&A here. Yoda says, hey, Laine's not going to sign with CBJ. Yes or no question. Do we see that happening?
Well, first of all, it's got to be a hell of a deal moving forward. I don't see Patrick Laine being in a hurry to sign an 8-year deal in a pandemic. I don't see that. So his best option now, I believe, is he's eligible for arbitration this summer. The numbers will support a short-term deal in the vicinity of maybe $9 million, especially when you got Matthew Tkachuk's of the world in his last year making $9 million. So I would think that he would go short-term and then put himself in a position where maybe the market gets a little better, stronger, but we don't anticipate that for the next few years. But I would think it would leave him with some options to say, if I don't like it here, and I look behind my shoulder and I see the same guy that embarrassed me in 4 games in, I'm out of here. And that's the danger now that Winnipeg had. That's why Winnipeg moved him, is because they couldn't go deep on the money that he wanted. And he was a few years away from saying, bye-bye anyways. I'll walk out the door for free in a few years after this year. So he's in a good position to get his money on a short-term deal. I don't see it long-term.
I believe that Columbus will get Laine signed. Will Tortorella be the coach for the bulk of the time he signs, long or short? I don't know. But I know, to me, it's very simple. Columbus have got to get him signed. They've got to get rid of this drama. They've got to get him signed. They can't let him. They can't let it go till the end of the season and have this facing this organization. I believe they will get him signed on a short-term deal, like you said. I believe they will because they can't not get him signed, Nick. They got to get him signed.
Well, then again, if he gets awarded 2 years, Mac, in an arbitration case, even if it's $15 million at 7.5 or 8, it will be with the short-term look that he will walk. And you will end up with nothing.
I know.
And that is the danger for Columbus.
I know it is. And it's I really believe that Kekalainen, who, by the way, has done a good job there. I believe that I think Laine is going to see he's going to be the number 1 guy. He's going to be the number 1 power play guy. He's going to be their biggest scorer. I really believe for Laine to take a step in his career, that 2 to 3 years in Columbus, whether he leaves after that, I don't know. But I think it's good for his career to get a deal done and not move on to another team. That's my own opinion. Look what it did for Panarin. I know Panarin was a star in Chicago, but it certainly helped Panarin.
And it was okay. Oh, yeah. It worked out great for Panarin, and it was a disaster for Stan Bowman. Disaster.
A disaster.
And it killed Patrick Kane to watch one of the best players in the league just leave.
That's why I don't think Laine will leave. I think they will get him signed.
So
that's just my prediction.
That leads into our next question from Hot Lunch, H to the L. What coach will be the first to be fired this season?
Well, I thought I'd never say this, but I just watched the whole Vancouver Canucks scenario, and I think that Jim Benning's on a lifeline right now, and he's hanging on. And I don't know if that means Benning and Travis Green. I have no idea where that organization is, but if they were a team that were the first team to shake something up, I honestly believe it's also an option for that ownership group to make 2 changes, not just 1. That's how crazy I think things are in Vancouver right now.
I think we're going to see a different year here. I think we're going to see, because money is so tight for ownership, I really believe we're going to see limited guys get fired. I really believe that. I think it may happen at the end of the season, but I think we're going to see very, very few in-house firings. Blashill is always a name in Detroit. They're playing their tails off right now. I mean, look, Stevie's not going to make a coaching change because he's going to wait till it's the right time. I just think we're going to see limited coaches fired. I really do.
I think still the teams want to win. They want to win now.
Yeah, but I haven't seen any real coaches that jump out at me that I would say they should be fired right now, based on what I've seen.
All right. That's an interesting question.
We have a couple more we could plow through. What do you guys want?
Yeah,
do
why
a couple
not?
more?
Listen, how many?
Yeah,
how
I got
many,
nothing to do today.
How many likes?
We're at
How many likes are we at?
132. Let's close up with one last question here.
Don't worry about Doug going to the pool or the beach today. Don't worry about that. I'm
sorry.
kidding.
I can't hear. I hear a little somebody complaining about great life, and I'm trying to
World's
to
smallest
zone it
violin.
I'm gonna have to shovel snow tomorrow morning, and I'm just trying to keep it a
I'm all
positive
for it.
attitude.
I'm basking
you
in
take
minus
questions.
12.
Yeah. So, last question here for the day. What's going to happen with? I might be pronouncing this incorrectly, but what's going to happen with Denault at the deadline? Is he going to be a trade candidate after he denied that contract offer he had over the offseason or whatever?
Are we talking Montreal, Philip Deneau?
Yeah, Denault.
Yeah. I think the only way Philip Deneau ends up long term in Montreal is if he backs off his demand, which I heard is north of $6 million. Or right around $6 million. Mac, I think if he was to pull it back, they'd gladly have him as a 1-2 punch with Suzuki. Your thoughts?
What's Anderson making?
Anderson, I think, is
5?
over 5. We got to double check that, but
I just think he's not he's not a big numbers guy, but he's really valuable, and I think Bergevin knows the value in him. That line is a great line with Tatar and Gallagher. I'll be shocked if Montreal don't get this guy signed. I will.
I think they're really banking on him, feeling like he's got a good situation. He's well liked. He's at $3 million. Do they see him as a 4-5 guy? Yes. Do they see him as a 6? I'm not sure.
What about what is Bergeron making in what did Bergeron do for the Bruins to help them become a Stanley Cup contender? He saw that it was an amazing situation. He knows that he is the guy there.
Yeah.
I mean, Bergeron to me is one of the best players in the game.
But he can't score like Bergeron. He can't.
No, he can't. He can't. He's not as good a player.
It's not even in the same class.
But it's as importance to your team. I know he's not there. Does he have potential to be? No, he'll never score. He'll never be a big scorer.
Josh Anderson's at $5.5 million, Mac.
Yeah.
So is that between 5 and 5.5? Would he do 5.25 for 5 years? Still hard to turn down $27.5 million.
I mean, I think, can they not get him done at the identical money and deal as Josh Anderson?
Yeah.
That's where I'd be gunning for if I was, I mean, look, Anderson had 1 goal last year, major injuries, 1 goal. That was a big gamble, and it certainly paid off. And if I'm Deneau, that's what my target is.
Whoa. Hope everybody enjoyed the show. I got to get Mac, I think, to the pool. Right? You only have 3.5 more hours of daylight and 80-degree weather. Is that?
I thought you were going to say you only have 3.5 more months down here before you go to PEI.
PEI's got to be cold right now too.
Oh, it is.
Wow. So the last count, I think we had 135 likes.
136 for the day. Thanks, everybody.
I'm so proud of you guys. Thank you
Thanks
so much, and I hope you enjoyed the various topics.
I guess when you say how many likes, how many dislikes did we have?
I think we had 2. We have two people who are always out to get us. They search for us. They press
what
it.
Jerks are they? Who are those jerks?
Sad people who live pathetic lives, most likely. That's my guess. Going out on a limb.
I think the best part of today is if Brian Burke can find work, man, so could you.
Oh yeah, right.
Hey.
Yeah.
Just don't go to the beach. Don't go to the beach unless you take your phone.
Yeah. As I was walking on the beach one day, and there was a unbelievable amount of sharks going by. You know how they migrate?
Yeah.
So and Jill and I had a little argument, and I said, "Hey, honey, there's a bunch of sharks down here in the beach," and she said, "Jump in."
Once upon a time when you were president of a NHL hockey team, you were definitely a shark. because that's all
Okay,
those guys.
thanks.
Those
Thanks
guys
for having
are.
me.
Doug
Thanks for having me.
Maclean out of Florida with a great run today on the Real Kyper at Noon show. And for all of you, thanks for sticking around, man. The numbers were great. The likes were great. If you're a first-time watcher, subscribe. We're around. We're covering everything you want to hear around the National Hockey League. We'll give you our honest opinion on everything, and I think that's a bit of an appeal for you all, and we're happy to do it. We got Doug, Joe, Jordan. Thanks, guys, for today, and we'll see you real soon, okay? Enjoy the night.